Tonight on our news, paying their fair share. The Prime Minister challenging leaders of Commonwealth nations to help countries affected by climate change. And find out the new legislation that will settle the decades-long issue of equality over the transfer of citizenship. Plus,
all my body gone, all my body. My life go.
The mother of a man gunned down on Carmichael Road speaks. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. A challenge to Commonwealth leaders to use their collective traditions and shared values to do something about climate change. Prime Minister Philip Davis challenging a forum at CHOGM today to help countries affected by these catastrophic events by paying their fair share. Our Jerome Sawyer has the highlights.
Another world stage with another sobering view of climate change realities.
When the storms come, we have no escape. We do what we can to shelter, but we are at the mercy of the forces far beyond our control.
Prime Minister Philip Davis, a featured speaker at CHOGM's Business Forum Wednesday, sharing the realities of small island states.
Those of us least responsible for the carbon emissions which drive climate change are suffering from the greatest negative impact. For us, it is not simply a threat, but a clear and present danger.
The day before, he promised to ask those responsible to pay.
We can take great steps to ensure our survival, but we cannot do it alone. We need partners to support us in our efforts, and we do not think it is too much to ask those who have contributed so much to climate disaster to step forward and step up in partnering with us to mitigate against its impact.
But there are real obstacles. The Commonwealth's Blue Charter calls for solving ocean-related problems, with UN sustainable goals to preserving the oceans. But with conservation funding at 0.01%, the green climate funding at less than 2%, and no buy-in to fund the blue economy, that Blue Charter is going nowhere.
We know how to do what needs to be done, but why has it not been done? Is it because we lack the will to do it? We have chosen to gather as friends in a Commonwealth because we see value in the institution. We have other opportunities, other fora in which to meet, but we gather here because the Commonwealth provides something which other organizations, our regional organizations, and the United Nations do not. A gathering of peoples connected by shared traditions and shared values.
Well, the Prime Minister's appearance here at the Business Forum today also included what they call a fireside chat, where he was asked what mitigation efforts his government has put in place in light of the huge financial losses suffered from these climatic changes. Well, he used the opportunity to speak to some of the green initiatives, which are environmentally friendly, but also used as cost-cutting measures. From CHOGM in Kigali, Rwanda, reporting for our news, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
Well, the Bahamas is front and center in a global discussion on climate change. Prime Minister Philip Davis among a select group of leaders invited to a special presentation called Climate Change and the Commonwealth at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Rwanda this week. Climate change is a major focus of CHOGM, as many members, including the Bahamas, are small island states. In fact, the Bahamas' recent experience and response to Hurricane Dorian continues to gain worldwide attention, as seen in the remarks earlier given by Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland.
32 of our Commonwealth's 54 members are small states. Tens of millions of the 2.5 billion people who call the Commonwealth home, 60% of whom are under the age of 30, are already in the crosshairs of climate change. They feel it. They live it. They know that without our action, the force and frequency of violent weather, fire, shortages of food and water, and the threat of rising seas will continue to intensify until it overwhelms them.
In other news, the Nationality Bill 2022 among several key pieces of legislation expected to transform the lives of Bahamians in the next budget year, according to Attorney General Ryan Pinder. Our Sasha Lightbourne has a closer look at the AG's contribution in the Senate today.
Attorney General Ryan Pinder speaking to several key pieces of legislation expected to be passed in the upcoming budget cycle. Among them, the Nationality Bill 2022.
We will advance appropriate legislation to finally bring equality to Bahamian men and women in the transmission of citizenship to their children, bringing a conclusion through law of the vexing issues that we experience of inequality in this country.
He also spoke to the Rehabilitation of Offenders Bill 2022, which will expunge the records of many who were arrested during the emergency orders.
We'll shortly table an amendment to the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act to expunge the records of minor offenses due to violations of emergency orders, Madam President. The young men and women of the country who are trying to make a living selling coconut water, doing what they could to scrap, to live during these lockdowns imposed by the former administration will now get a clean record, Madam President.
The Evidence Amendment Act will also be in the government's legislative suite this fiscal year, according to Pinder.
We hope to debate, before we break for the summer, Madam President, this amendment, which will shorten the number of years for those that have gone missing in events of peril. This is a fundamentally important to bringing finality to scores of families across the Bahamas as a result of missing family members from Hurricane Dorian and allow normalcy to return to the day-to-day life. It's unequitable to cause for those family members to wait 7 years to receive finality in their lives with their family. It has imposition on insurance policies, estates, probates, the whole 9 yards, Madam President. This amendment seeks to rectify that issue in events of peril.
The 2022-2023 budget is expected to come into force on July 1st. Reporting for our news, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
Meanwhile, major shifts ahead for the process of registering children born in the Bahamas. The Attorney General today announcing a new live birth registration system will be rolled out in the upcoming fiscal year at all 3 hospitals in the country. That means parents will no longer have to wait outside in the elements at the Registrar General Department on Shirley Street to legally register their children. Pinder says this move is not only necessary for the health, safety, and convenience of new parents and their children, but also important in preserving the integrity of the system and guarding against abuse. While the additional $4.1 million allotted for government's travel expenses in the upcoming fiscal year continues to be a topic of interest, with members of the opposition Free National Movement criticizing the ballooning budget. Today, former Foreign Affairs Minister and leader of opposition business in the Senate, Senator Darren Henfield, took a stance explaining why the Minnis administration made far fewer trips while he served as Foreign Affairs Minister.
Not because you're not popping in and off of an airplane, it means that you're not engaging the international community. Far from it. So the moral of the story is you don't always have to travel everywhere to get things done in international relations. That's the only moral of the story. We were more concerned with recovery after Hurricane Dorian and finding solutions for Bahamians furloughed because of the impact of COVID-19 upon our economy. And so if we fail to attend every meeting, I'm sorry.
Well, the summer break is here, but report cards for public school students in grades 1 through 11 will be delayed by 2 weeks. The Ministry of Education issuing a statement late this afternoon advising technical issues in its learning management system has caused the delay. For a full read of the statement, visit Our News Bahamas on Facebook. And it's now time for our first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center.
Thanks and welcome everybody for our first look at weather on this beautiful Wednesday evening. Temperatures are comfortable outside, 82 degrees, with just a few clouds outside. Your winds are a little on the breezy side, east-northeast at 13 miles per hour, and your field side temperature very comfortable at 83, factoring our very dry relative humidity. Across our area on the satellite, frontal boundary that was across the central Bahamas is now pushed near the southeast Bahamas, Auckland's and Crooked Island, you guys, as well as the Ragged Island chain, Maguana, saw some showers and some thunderstorms. Earlier today, also across the northwest Bahamas, we had a couple of isolated showers just to the west of Andros. High-level clouds drifting towards the south across most of the island chain will filter in some sunshine, but we'll continue to watch this frontal boundary dissipate later on tonight through tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, the mother of a man shot and left dying on a sidewalk speaks out. Plus, why the taxi cab union is excited about changes in the distribution of licenses. And later, the illegal capture of a turtle is now under active investigation. That's coming up when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Samir.
The mother of a man who was gunned down on Tuesday night is speaking out. Jared Higgs tells us she didn't know her son to have any problems despite a run-in with the law in 2020.
The man who was shot and killed off Carmichael Road on Tuesday night is 35-year-old Charles St. Luke, also known as Elmo, according to his mother.
He told me, Mommy, I lost my brother. I said, what happened? They said they killed Charles. I said, why? Tell me they just shoot Charles last night.
St. Luke was shot and killed outside a business establishment near the junction of Edmonton and Carmichael Roads. Police press liaison officer Superintendent Audley Peters says it was 10 p.m. when officers found the 35-year-old on a sidewalk suffering from gunshot injuries.
The victim, along with other patrons, were at a business establishment when a small vehicle pulled up. Two males exited that vehicle armed with weapons and discharged him in the direction of the patrons. The victim ran from the scene and he was followed and subsequently shot by one of the armed bandits.
I spoke to St. Luke's mother, Jeanette St. Luke, over the phone. The 59-year-old lives in Fort Lauderdale, and so she hadn't seen her son regularly. However, they did speak on Monday night, a day before he was killed.
For me, I don't know, because for me, nice boy, nice, loving, care, everything for me. I don't know if he get problem with somebody. I don't know if he not, because I never know Charles get problem with nobody. I don't know. Never hear that.
However, when asked about a murder charge St. Luke picked up back in 2020 for the killing of Patrick Roll Jr., the grieving mother said she didn't know anything about that. St. Luke leaves behind a wife and 4 children, including a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. He also leaves his mother questioning what went wrong.
I don't know what I see, because all my I go everything gone in me. Just because I don't know. All my body gone. All my body. My life go.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Thanks, Jared. In other news, the practice of renting taxi license plates may be coming to an end as the Ministry of Transport and Housing moves to bring, quote, long overdue changes to the distribution of taxi plates. The head of the Bahamas Taxi Cab Union tells our Megan Shepard it's good news for the industry.
It is a decades-long issue that has prevented hundreds of taxi cab drivers from owning their own businesses, the rental of taxi plates. While with the Ministry of Transport recalling dormant or rented plates, the president of the Bahamas Taxi Cab Union, Wesley Ferguson, says this is welcomed news. He says for years, some drivers have been operating under the estate of.
The minister now has sought to regulate that by printing these plates in the papers for a period of 90 days. And those who, in the general public, who feels as if they have a legitimate right to lay some claims, so the reason why this plate should be given back to them or their family members, they have that opportunity to do so now.
Cab driver Major says this will open doors for cab drivers to alleviate the financial burden drivers have incurred as renters.
I feel everybody should have a plate and own their own franchise, and give everybody a chance to own their own business. Well, I'm renting right now.
And what is that like?
Well, it's like a hustle and a bustle. You gotta keep pushing. You keep struggling. You gotta keep on the job. Because if you don't do that, you fall behind. You still gotta find the man money.
Frederick Clark was granted his own plate after years of renting.
It's so good to be your own franchise owner, to be working, doing things for yourself. There's no strain on you right now. You know what I mean? And that's a very good thing for us.
Kenyatta Nairn says he agrees with the move to end the practice of renting plates. However, he says he hopes more regulation of the industry will follow.
What they've done, they've said, listen, we're going to open up and allow you to be owners, right? But then they're not regulating the industry. So now you have a bunch of persons with their own plate, and then they got to work hard to find work that should come to taxis. The tour companies are getting bigger. They're allowing them to get bigger. People are online doing the Uber services, which is illegal. It's because their cars are not insured accordingly. And so they're doing that and they're allowing it to happen. They have green plates that are on cars that shouldn't be and running as if they're taxis.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
When Our News comes back from the break, yielding results. Find out the increased patrols by land and sea on Grand Bahama.
Plus, coming up in Sports for tonight, a showdown brewing in the heptathlon as two Yumbi Mingos get ready to clash in that event at the Nationals. We'll also tell you about our national basketball team as they pick up their first win at the Central Basket. That's all coming up in sports.
And later, the latest on an investigation into the illegal capture of a turtle. Stay with us.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Samir.
This is Our News. Welcome back. Increased patrols by land and sea on Grand Bahama yielding results to protect and preserve marine life. Our Megan Shepard speaks with the Department of Marine Resources in the Northern Bahamas.
A joint effort between the Department of Marine Resources and another government agency led to a recent apprehension on Grand Bahama. Assistant Fisheries Officer Ladina Pelicano says patrol efforts are paying off.
We would have apprehended 3 vessels that were suspected of using the air compressors illegally to harvest conch. And as we know, conch is very important for our marine environment and is considered an endangered species. And we also want to look forward to protecting the well-being of the fishermen as well, not only the environment. Compressor permits are only issued during the crawfish season. All right? And we want to remind persons that it should not be used unless a compressor permit is in hand.
In addition, compressors should only be used in waters 30 to 60 feet. She outlines the penalties for violations.
Punishment for those particular violations, they're subjected to the ruling of the magistrate. But as it stands at this particular time, the maximum penalties are up to $5,000 and or a year imprisonment.
Pelicanos adds, while there is currently no limit on the landing of conch, there are other conservation measures in place.
There is absolutely, at this particular time, no export of conch meat on a commercial scale. So there are measures that we are actively taking into consideration, and we're discussing with fishermen ways that we can preserve the conch. So it's not the Department of Marine Resources just making the decisions, it's actually getting the communities involvement.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
The Department of Marine Resources in Grand Bahama is now actively investigating video evidence of a turtle illegally captured and tied up behind a local restaurant in West End. Assistant Fisheries Officer Ladina Pelicano says she believes the motive behind capturing turtles is monetary and is urging those who engage in the illegal activity to do better.
Once that there is a market for it, persons are buying it, we're still going to have this particular type of problem. So we want to continue to educate the general public more on the laws regarding this information, because although it may be for persons to make money for today, there may not be any money to make for the future.
She says the responsibility of preserving marine life cannot solely rest on the shoulders of the department, but if you see something, say something.
We are heavy on tourism, our tourism industry, but we're also a country that is mainly surrounded by water, and we need to protect that. And so we want to ensure that persons are following the regulations and guidelines, and please, anyone from the general public that sees any of these matters, please, we can keep you anonymous. Please contact us.
A clash is brewing in the men's decathlon and track news. Meanwhile, our under-15 boys take down Costa Rica. Here's Marcellus Hall.
All right, thanks, Christina. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. It's going to be a big clash at the upcoming track and field nationals next weekend. No, we're not talking about the usual stuff when you talk about the 400 meters or whatever. It's going to be in heptathlon. Two UB Mingos athletes going head-to-head, both vying for a crown they've both held. Let's take a look. At the upcoming B3A's National Track and Field Championships, the showdown in the open decathlon competition will be between dueling record holders Ken Mullings and current record holder Kendrick Thompson. Thompson recently reset the record last month at the Jacksonville Athletics Club at the Jacksonville Combined event, qualifies in Jacksonville, Florida, after amassing a total of 7,788 points. University of the Bahamas products have exchanged the record over the past 2 years. Mingos head coach Edna Rolls says this increased competition and interest in decathlon is good for the sport.
I think it says a lot. You know, this is new to have two Bahamian athletes on the verge of qualifying for worlds. You know, this is special. And the fact that they are actually training at home says a lot. You know, this is new for us, you know, so we're still kind of learning.
10-event, two-day decathlon. The competition starts Friday morning with the 100-meter event and concludes Saturday evening with the 1500. And that is your look at sports here on this Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Marcellus. Don't go anywhere. Over in the Weather Center, meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by with your 5-day forecast. That's coming up when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
Welcome back to our news. Temperatures expected to creep up near 90 degrees this weekend. Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead.
Thanks again and welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. We are taking a look at this weak frontal boundary still sagging towards the south across the central Bahamas, now just bordering the southeast Bahamas with some showers and isolated thunderstorms associated with it. We will continue to monitor that as it is continuing to dissipate. High pressure is building behind that, keeping us a little on the breezy side across the northwest and central Bahamas. That's taking a little bit of an edge off of the heat, but those temperatures approaching the 90-degree mark once again, and of course your triple-digit indices still very close and affecting most of the island chain. The tropics, quiet right now. A couple of tropical waves across the tropical belt, one coming off of Africa out there, another one that moved through the Leeward Islands, basically falling apart, and the other tropical wave that moved into Central America has now moved into the Pacific. We will continue to watch out there in the Atlantic. As we're approaching July, we start to take a look towards the Atlantic. There's going to be less shear over the next couple of weeks, And of course, the Atlantic waters remaining very warm, so we will monitor that over the upcoming days. Boating forecast for all areas tonight to tomorrow. Very nice conditions out there. Your winds will fall light and variable at times, but they will be 5 to 10 knots, mainly out of the southeast to south. Your seas will be running 1 to 3 feet over the ocean. Your low tide will be at 10:20 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your 7-day forecast over the next couple of days, beautiful conditions expected for the remainder of the week. We have a little bit of a weak disturbance moving into the area on the latter part of the weekend into early next week. So we will see a bump up in our shower chances by Sunday. And of course, next week should be very nice on the outdoors as well. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe evening, everybody.
Thanks, Greg, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.